everybody, I'm Jamie and I'm here to talk again about Sjogren's disease. I know this isn't really the best professional setup. I'm just like in my living room talking to you, but here it goes. This is what you get. Me in my living room. Anyhow, today we're going to talk about the top 10 ailments of Sjogren's disease, and not just the bullet point, but what that might look like. Because when I started reading about Sjogren's and researching after I was diagnosed with it, some things like brain fog, I was like, I don't know what that means necessarily, right? What is brain fog? So anyway, I wanted to go through and talk about the top 10 ailments. And you do not have to have all these ailments. Some people have a few of them. Some have all of them. Some have others. I know there's up to 40 different symptoms for Sjogren's disease. That's a lot. That's a lot of symptoms. So there's a lot of overlapping between us, but it's also very individual. So Sjogren's can present itself very differently in any given person. So like my mom has joint pain, I don't, but I have a lot of muscle pain. So anyhow, we're just gonna start crushing through these ailments, and let me know in the comments what your top 3 ailments are. What is the most difficult thing for you? And if you have anything to share, any links, any helpful research, that would be great as well. So feel free. This is your channel just as much as it is mine. We're just opening up the dialogue for us, for Sjogren's patients, because there's just not very much on the topic, and not many people talking about it, especially people that have it. We see a lot of doctors talking about it, but we need to talk about it. So here we go. Okay, this is out of 100%. So top ailment is dry eyes, 92%, which is an interesting statistic considering somewhere else in the Sjogren's 5th edition book, it says that, only 80% have dry eyes, dry mouth, so maybe it's a combination. But that is the most defining feature of Sjogren's because our exocrine gland gets attacked. Our autoimmune system goes against it. So dry eyes and dry mouth are both at 92%. So 92% of us experience either one or both. That also would include dry nose. I don't think I don't experience the dry eyes like I've heard a lot of other people do. I've on my groups, on Facebook mainly, Reddit, talking to people about it. I mean, some people have to use eye drops all day, every day, 10 times a day, 20 times a day. When they wake up in the morning, their eyelids will stick to their eyes. It's horrible. Okay, it's horrible. I do have an eye phobia. And so I think there is a component that I do have dry eye, just not to that severe degree. I've always itched my eyes a lot, scratched my eyes a lot, I know, which is horrible. So now I don't. I kind of, try to, but when I was young, I did. My eyes are very sensitive to the sun. I have to wear glasses at all times if I'm outdoors. So I do have sensitive eyes. I do have dry eyes. It's just luckily for me, it's not, and cross my fingers, that because the onset of everything is so gradual in this disease, it doesn't mean I can't get more severe dry eyes, but I'm really hoping I don't. And dry nose, it's funny because I've quite a few times gotten like a sore up in my nose, and I didn't realize it was dry. They're always sort of runny, and they hurt. Sometimes it hurts. I just had no clue that that's what it was before I had the disease, before I was diagnosed, sorry. Fatigue is 80% of us experience fatigue. This fatigue could be extreme. It could be very debilitating. Just on a day-to-day basis, even when you're not in a flare-up, we just seem to be, things are harder, for us, especially physical activity. I know sometimes just doing the laundry and dishes and the general sort of house chores can be hard, and you have to take a break and that sort of thing. But if you're in a flare-up, this could be so extreme that you're not really getting out of bed. If you are getting out of bed, you're sitting on the couch, you're sitting in a recliner, you're not able to do much. Sometimes this can go on for days, weeks, months, some of you even years. So fatigue is not being tired. It's not. And that's just what's so hard for people to understand that don't have an autoimmune disease, that don't suffer from fatigue. It's like if you're tired, go to bed. It's like, I can't sleep. I also have insomnia, which is, I'll get to that. It's also on the list, but fatigue is so hard to explain if you've never had it. It's just hard to move your body. It's hard to do anything. It feels like weights, have been like 50-pound weights have been attached to your legs and your arms, and doing anything is like climbing a mountain. And it sounds dramatic to people that don't experience extreme fatigue, and sometimes frustrating for them, because like I said in previous videos, we don't necessarily look unhealthy. And if you're sitting on a couch for a month, it can affect your relationships, because people may not believe you or think you're over exaggerating, or they just don't understand. And some people will give up on you. Okay, I'm not going to keep calling her and asking her to go places or do things. Your spouse might come home. I want to say husband because this attacks mainly women. 80% of women are diagnosed with Sjogren's versus only 20% of men. But I know I've read on my groups that fatigue can be hard in their marriage, can affect everything, your sex life. Everything's dry, not to get too graphic, but with fatigue and dryness, it's not always top of the list to be intimate with your partner, or your partner may not think you're doing enough, or your partner may not understand what you're going through. So there's a lot of that. So anyway, fatigue for me has been one of the most debilitating. Not my number one. I'll get to my number one. That's my number two. I had a flare up last July. I had gotten a car accident, and I think it just triggered, because, a lot of times flare-ups can be triggered by stress, by, something physically happening to you, by a bacteria, by chemical. There's typically an external component to a flare-up. So last July, I couldn't get off the couch, and that's when I finally buckled and went on hydroxychloroquine, and that helped me immensely with my fatigue. So I'm too young to be sitting on a darn couch. I have a lot to still do and see, and I'm a traveler. I want to travel the world. So I made that hard decision, which I had decided to try to do it my way. I explanted my boobs. I got extremely healthy. I followed the Dr. Gundry. I did so much work, supplement after supplement, and distilling my water and eating good and all kinds of stuff. I didn't cure it, but some ailments did get better. But when you experience a flare-up, it just can come out of nowhere. So I think that's the number one thing for flare-ups is fatigue. Dry or itchy skin, that affects 76% of us. I do a lot of moisturizer. I do magnesium baths, not the cheap, Epsom salt bath, like a real magnesium bath. And I also do hydrogen peroxide baths, but like the commercial food grade diluted. And I'm addicted to skincare. So I try to take really good care of my skin, because if you don't, it can really age you. So I'm into anti-aging and just trying to keep my skin as moisturized as possible. Morning stiffness, 69%. What is morning stiffness? I didn't know, but then when you think about it, it's the two hardest parts of my day are going to sleep and waking up. Once I'm up and around and moving and stuff, you start to feel better as the day goes on. But in the mornings, I have to peel myself out of my bed, especially when things are hard. If you have stress in your life, my mom was sick with disease for 2.5 years. So I had to be there 7 days a week. And simultaneously, my dad got sick and went on hospice. And I was their caretakers. And getting out of bed every day, I couldn't be in a flare up. I had no choice. I had to be there. After my dad passed, and luckily my mom got better, she survived that horrible, horrible disease. I just couldn't hardly do anything. I got a flare up so bad. So morning stiffness, it's like you have a hard time getting out of bed. Your muscles are tight and moving is hard. And I'm imagining if you're in a flare up and even as you get older, this is not going to get any easier. I think a lot of Sjogren's patients sit and lay a lot and have a really difficult time getting up and getting out of bed. You're not lazy. That's what I thought. I thought it was lazy. I just thought and I also thought this is just what people feel like. It sucks waking up. It's hard to get out of bed. This is why I keep very strange hours. Luckily, my kids are all grown now. And when they got a little bit older, I started keeping my own hours. Being a professional photographer, I used to edit after they go to bed. So I'd be up to 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and that just sort of stuck. And a lot of it is because if I do go to bed earlier now, even though I'm not editing all night like I used to, if I try to go to bed, I'll just lay there for an hour or 2 or 3 and spin in my mind. And that's just so aggravating that I just stay up and I sleep in. And thank God I could do that now, because that works a lot easier for me. Sometimes I'm just like, how do you people do it that have to wake up every single day with this disease? It can be debilitating. So my heart goes out to you if you have to wake up at 6:30 or 7 or 8 in the morning and it's just, and you can't sleep at night. Or like even me, if I can fall asleep, what happens is I'll sleep for 3 or 4 hours, and then when I wake up, I'm like, I can't go back to sleep. So I'll lay there for 5, 6, 7, 8 in the morning for an hour or 2. If I get up, there's nothing to do at those wee hours in the morning. So it's annoying. And that moves into trouble sleeping. 69% of us have trouble sleeping. So this can present as you can't fall asleep, takes you forever to fall asleep. When you do fall asleep, you can only sleep a couple hours. I do have a few things to recommend. I can tell you that when I did a 3 or 7 day fast, I slept like a baby. Your nose clears up, congestion. I know a lot of people think they can't, or maybe they can't fast, but fasting has been amazing for me. And that will be something I'll talk about in a future video. And as well, I have rocket rest, and I have a few all natural sort of things that I take for sleep. Not sleeping pills that can be addictive or harmful for you, but that's something I'll talk about in another episode about different kinds of supplements and things that you can take to help with these ailments. Joint pain is 64% and swelling. Luckily, I do not have joint pain or swelling. This is where I'm lucky. Crossing fingers, that's not something that I develop. But again, this disease is a slow onset of ailments. And this is why one of the reasons it could take up to 3 to 5 years to diagnose. It's like, when I was diagnosed with this and I read that it's dry eyes, dry mouth, I thought, oh, that's okay. When I really started to read, I thought, well, gosh, I should probably write down my ailments that are different than everyone else's. I had never really done that before. I'd been to the doctor for, say, A and B, and then next year I go to the doctor for C and D. And then I bring these things up over time, but I never really made a list and then when I made a list, I was like, mind blown. I mean, crazy how I never really put it all together and said, doctor, why do I have this at my age? You know, I was diagnosed at 42 years old. So I guess I dealt with those ailments pretty much for so long that you know, you're just trying to deal with 1 here or 2 there or 1 here, and you just get used to it, I guess. So joint pain, 64%, dry nose, 63%. This can present like as little sores or pain in your nose. You know, when I get out into the cold, my nose and ears, I have a really hard time with my ears as well. They will start to hurt really bad. And some of these things, right, are like other people have them. Other people have these ailments. I mean, yeah, you go out in the cold and people say their ears are cold. So it's like, you know, a lot of these ailments, you have to sort of put them together to see, normal people don't live like this. Normal people don't have these things. It's not just that I'm weird. It's not just that I'm lazy. It's not just that I'm quirky. It's not just that, oh, she has weird sleeping issues. No, you put it all together and it's a disease. It's a debilitating disease that is hard to explain to people because it's hard for us to understand it. It's hard for rheumatologists to understand it. It's funny, you know, a rheumatologist will ask you, do you have anybody in your family from your past, your grandparents, your great grandparents that had, you know, any autoimmune? Do they had lupus or Sjogrens? It's like, that's like not a good question because there was no testing for autoimmune for my grandparents, for my great grandparents. So how the heck should we know what our family lineage is? I mean, my mom has it. My aunt has it. I'm suspicious that a cousin has it. So we'll talk about that later too, how it runs in families. But it's not genetic. That's confusing. And we're going to tackle that subject because I finally got it. Finally got it after a lot of research on the matter, forgetfulness is 60%. I definitely have seen a decline in my memory and forgetting things that I shouldn't forget. Something somebody says to me. I mean, I've always had a impeccable, like a really strong memory. So I have noticed, and forgetfulness and brain fog is 57%. And what does brain fog look like? What is that? It's not the same as forgetfulness. Brain fog is like this sort of overall, oh gosh, it's so hard to explain, isn't it? How do you explain brain fog? Your thoughts aren't as clear. The way your cognition is not as clear, and this can kind of come and go, and it can be really strong for some people, and just for me, I don't think it's as severe as for others. But brain fog, it's just your thought process isn't as clear. The information coming in and going out isn't always as easy and clear as it once was. It's just sort of this fogginess you live in, I guess. It's really hard to explain what that is, right? So if you experience brain fog and have a better way of explaining it than I do, then please leave that in the comments, because that's the thing with some of these ailments is it's not until you hear other people talk about them that you realize, oh, that's me. I have that. I do have that ailment. Initially it was like, brain fog, but yeah, I do have brain fog. And this actually just affected a relationship of mine, recently. She had told me, I don't want you to post that picture of me. I had kind of forgotten. I posted it. She got really upset with me. And I said, no, I just forgot. I really honestly forgot that you said that, and try to think back, and it's foggy, and it's just really kind of unlike me. I noticed, like, my husband said, I told you that. I just told you that. And it's like going to have a foggy memory of it. Like, oh yeah. Again, a lot of people forget or, have brain fog or forgetfulness, right? So it's like all these ailments are common ailments because people have one of them or two of them, but they don't have 7 of them or 10 of them. A few other things to note that were on this top 10 list of ailments, and I do not have the percentages. These are all coming out of the Sjogren's edition book, by the way. Neuropathy is very common. My mom has neuropathy as a Sjogren's patient. It makes it very difficult for her to walk sometimes and to, have the dexterity she once did. I have Raynaud's disease pretty severely. So I wear 2 socks every day. Try to wear wool socks, and I wear what am I in today? I'm in bare paws today. So the only time I can wear flip-flops are when I go to tropical places. Luckily, I don't experience it in tropical humid places, which is awesome because it's so wonderful to feel like you have feet again that are alive. My feet constantly feel dead. And the temperature drops in the feet and the hands, and my Raynaud's can go all the way up to my knees. And maybe in the comments, I'll leave a picture. If you experience Raynaud's, it can get so bad, it's hard to walk. It feels like you're walking on ice blocks. It's not just cold feet. In fact, if it gets severe enough, people get their toes amputated. It's really annoying. Same with neuropathy. It just really affects your life, your daily life, every single day. These things, all these ailments do. Some are more annoying than others. Organ involvement is to be mentioned with Sjogren's patients. Luckily for us, this disease, our autoimmune disease, does not attack our organs as often as other diseases like lupus. So yay us, I guess, It did make me actually feel a lot better that I don't have to worry. My mom's pan disease attacked her bowel. She had to go to emergency surgery. She almost died. It was horrible. And that can just come on like that. So luckily for us, that is super uncommon and not something we have to really worry about. So there's one thing. Chronic pain isn't on this list. So for me, that's number 2. Number 1 is fatigue for me. Number 2 is chronic pain. I live in a lot of pain. It sucks. My shoulder mainly, which I think I mentioned, I was a professional photographer, so I just thought it was from holding the camera. You know how even Why can't I think? See, this is the brain fog. I was going to say hair cutters, but hairstylists, they will even get carpal tunnel or problems. So, but I haven't been a professional photographer full time now for over like a decade. And the pain in my neck, my shoulder, the shooting pain up through my skull, it's debilitating and it's painful. I have to now do muscle relaxers from time to time. And honestly, after my last car accident, I now get injections. I have to get steroid injections. And I get like 8 or 10 of them. I get them all through this muscle, up in through my neck, and actually right at the base of my skull. This is the last thing I want to do, but it's so debilitating. It's so painful. I mean, I'm walking around at an 8 or a 9 every day. To other people, I have a really high pain tolerance. To other people, this is probably a 10. It's hard. And then what are you going to do? Complain about it all day? You just have to live with it. It sucks. So these steroid injections have really, really, really helped me have a quality of life back. And I don't know if that's something you want to consider for you, but I know for me, it just got to the point where I can't do anything, or I have to do it and pretend every single day that I'm not living in excruciating pain. Okay, whew, we're almost done here, getting through these ailments. Again, these are only the top 10. There's a lot more, and I'm just reading a few others that are really top on the list. Chronic pain, mental impact, so brain fog, forgetfulness. There's a lot of mental impact, especially as you get older, and especially if the disease is not treated at all. The emotional health aspect, I also wanted to just note really quickly, when I was reading about it, anxiety and depression come along with this disease as a mental health issue. One, it's depressing to find out you have it. And 2, it's depressing to have all these ailments. The other emotional components is it's actually 3/4 experience an emotional burden. 67% struggle to cope with the disease in general. 89% have a negative impact on their mood, especially the younger you are, under 60, can really affect your mood. 60% have a negative on experience in their sex life. This might be a lot to do with the dryness, the fatigue, the relationship issues that can happen, that come along with it. 63% can have a negative effect, experience a negative effect on relationships with family and friends, not being able to do things. Maybe we complain or talk about our disease and people just don't either believe us or don't want to listen or don't really care. Or if they do, it's like, okay, we got it. It's hard not to talk about it though. It can be. And 55% have a problem with spouse and partners. And, I've seen quite a few times on the Sjogren's groups that I'm on of husbands or wives, again, going back to husbands not believing them, since it affects 80% of women. So friends not, oh yeah, sort of dismissing it. Spouses, though, it can be very difficult if they think that you should be doing more, achieving more, fighting more. And some just straight up don't believe it. They don't want to do the research. They think it's in our heads, or that we should be doing more about it, or that we're using it as an excuse or something like that. Luckily, I have a very supportive husband when it comes to it. So I'm very lucky there. But I think even he doesn't fully understand what I go through on a day-to-day basis. I try not to complain about it every day. I want him to know where I'm at, but I don't want to be like the person where it consumes my entire life. Thus me doing a page, right? Like a YouTube channel on it. So maybe this is a way for me to know as much as possible and talk about it and not have to inundate people that really don't care to hear about it. But anyhow, this is kind of longer than I thought, but these are the top ailments and the things that we deal with on a daily basis. If this sounds like you may have Sjogren's, or maybe this is you and you just haven't put it all together. Maybe you've been newly diagnosed and need help just understanding sort of what these. If you have other ailments, leave them in the comments. Let me know what your top 3 ailments are. Let's talk about it. And if you have any awesome research or articles or input, leave that in the comments. This is your channel. This is our channel. I want to discuss things together. I want to learn together. And, let's just not rely on these healthcare professionals. Let's rely on each other who actually have the disease. Anyway, take care of yourself, and I will see you next time.